She felt the sweat running down her face as she heard her classmates mumbling impatiently, and the question arose in his mind. Did I do the right thing? Elizabeth Martin closed the door of her office for the last time with a bittersweet sensation. At the age of 60, she had just retired from a long career as a librarian in Newfield, a small town known for its welcoming community and its love for art and history. The city, with its tree-lined streets and historic buildings, has always been a home for Elizabeth. But now, as she walked home, she felt a void growing inside her. Upon arriving at her comfortable Victorian home, Elizabeth sat on the old sofa in the living room, surrounded by books and family photographs. The walls echoed memories of laughter and parties, but also of unfulfilled dreams. Her husband, Michael, who had died 5 years ago, had always encouraged her to pursue her passions, however late they were. "Liz, it's never too late to change the course," he used to say with an encouraging smile. On a quiet afternoon, as Elizabeth leafed through an old photo album, she came across images from her college years when she studied art before life took her in another direction. One photo in particular caught her eye, a sketch of a building she had taken during an introduction to architecture class, a course she loved but could never continue. At that moment, a flash of inspiration struck her. "Why not now?" she muttered to herself. The next day, Elizabeth visited Newfield University. The campus was vibrant with students of all ages, but few as experienced as it. At the admissions office, she was met by a young and enthusiastic counselor named Sarah Jenkins. "How can I help you today?" asked Sarah with a smile. "I'm interested in enrolling in architecture," Elizabeth replied, feeling a mixture of nervousness and excitement. Sarah looked at her with a mixture of surprise and admiration. "That's wonderful. It's never too late to follow new paths. I'll help you with whatever it takes." The following weeks were a whirlwind of forms, aptitude tests, and preparations. Elizabeth felt like a young woman again, full of anxiety and expectation for the first day of school. When that day came, she put on her best outfit and, with a briefcase full of new notebooks and sharp pencils, headed to the first day of her new life. On the way, she stopped at the local coffee shop, the Bean around the block, a popular place among students. While drinking her coffee, she watched the young people around her, talking excitedly about projects and tests. She felt strange among them, but a determined stranger. Finally, in the classroom, she took her place among future architects who could be her grandchildren. The teacher, Dr. Richard Allen, a middle-aged man with a well-trimmed beard and elegant glasses, began the class with a question that resonated deeply with Elizabeth. "Why architecture? Why now?" He looked around the room, waiting for answers. Elizabeth raised her hand, her voice a little shaky but clear. "For me, architecture is the art of creating spaces that tell stories. And now, because I believe it's never too late to build new beginnings." The room was silent for a moment before a spontaneous applause broke out. Dr. Allen smiled. "Excellent answer, Elizabeth. Welcome to the world of architecture." At that moment, Elizabeth knew she had made the right decision. She was ready to learn, grow, and, perhaps most importantly, start over. Despite the initial encouragement and warm acceptance of her peers and teachers, Elizabeth soon found that the path she had chosen was fraught with unexpected challenges. The world of architecture had evolved dramatically since its youth, and new technologies such as 3D modeling software and sustainable design methods looked like steep mountains to climb. In one of the first hands-on classes, Elizabeth sat before a computer in Newfield University's design lab, her gaze fixed on the screen full of icons and complex menus. At her side, young students handled the programs with ease, discussing projects in technical terms that she barely understood. "Are you all right, Elizabeth?" asked a kind voice. It was Tomas, a Brazilian student who, although young, had a maturity that transcended his age. He noticed her hesitation. "Honestly, I'm a little lost. These programs are completely new to me," Elizabeth confessed, feeling a twinge of dismay. "Don't worry, I'll help you. Let's start from the basics," Thomas offered, and so they spent the next few hours, with him patiently guiding her through the basic features of the software. This afternoon turned into a turning point for Elizabeth. She realized that while learning was challenging, she was not alone. The solidarity and support of his colleagues, many of whom faced their own struggles, began to break down the barriers of age and experience. However, the challenges were not only academic. In a world where students mostly communicated via text messages and social media, Elizabeth often felt isolated. She tried to adapt, but the nuances of digital communication sometimes eluded her, and the speed of online conversations left her behind. One night, after a long study session, she heard a group of students planning a date. "We're all going to the Redwood Cafe after school tomorrow. Are you coming, Elizabeth?" asked Mia, an enthusiastic student who was always keen to include her. Elizabeth hesitated. Part of her longed to integrate more, but insecurity held her back. I think I'll need to rest. But thank you for the invitation," she replied, forcing a smile. Upon returning home, loneliness weighed more than usual. The TV was on, but the sound seemed distant. She wondered if she really had what it took to continue. In that moment of doubt, she picked up the phone and dialed the number of her daughter, Anna. "Mom, how are things? You look a little down," Anna remarked after hearing each other. "I'm feeling a little out of place. Everyone is so young, and everything is so fast. What if I can't keep up?" Anna was quick to comfort. "Mother, remember what you always told me when I doubted myself. Persistence overcomes resistance. You are doing something amazing, something that many would only dream of having the courage to do. We are all so proud of you." Encouraged by her daughter's words, Elizabeth decided not to yield to discouragement. The next morning, she arrived at the university earlier and went directly to the computer lab. With renewed determination, she began practicing in design software on her own. When Thomas arrived, he found Elizabeth already deeply involved in his project. "I see someone started the day with total energy," he commented with a smile. "I'm trying," Elizabeth replied, returning the smile. "I learned that sometimes all we need is a little more time and a lot of determination." As the semester progressed, Elizabeth gradually overcame her insecurities and adapted to the pace of college life. She began to open up more, sharing her own life experiences in class discussions, which enriched conversations and brought unique perspectives that only someone with her experience could offer. Through these small steps, Elizabeth found not only acceptance, but a true sense of belonging. She learned that at any age there is always room to grow, connect, and, above all, start over. As autumn unfolded in Newfield, the leaves exchanged their green robes for shades of orange and red, and Elizabeth felt a similar change within her. With each passing day, she became more adapted to university life, finding a new rhythm between lectures, studies, and social interactions. More than that, she began to see her place not only as a student among many, but as a valuable part of a vibrant community. One afternoon, while working on a group project at the design studio, Elizabeth realized how much she had learned and grown. The project was a complex challenge that involved reimagining a historic Newfield neighborhood, and each member of the group brought their own ideas and skills to the table. Elizabeth, with her deep connection to the city's history and her emerging talent for sustainable design, proposed a series of solutions that respected the past while looking to the future. "That's brilliant, Elizabeth," exclaimed James, one of her younger colleagues, whose ability with digital technology complemented Elizabeth's historical knowledge. "Her approach brings depth that our projects really need." James's words were not merely courtesies. They reflected a genuine recognition of the value Elizabeth added to the group. This recognition was echoed by her teacher, Dr. Helena Barrett, during a project review. "Elizabeth, your integration of historical elements with modern sustainability practices is exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need in future architects," commented Dr. Barrett, an encouraging smile illuminating your face. With every project and every compliment, Elizabeth's confidence grew. She began to participate more actively in classes, sharing her ideas without the weight of insecurity that previously held her. His unique perspective, made up of decades of life experience, enriched the discussions by providing his younger colleagues with a different, often more thoughtful, view of architectural problems and solutions. Outside of classes, Elizabeth also found her space. She joined the university's Art and History Club, where her passion for Newfield's heritage was echoed by equally passionate students and faculty. Together, they organized events and lectures that highlighted the intersection between art, history, and architecture, attracting a diverse audience that valued the city's cultural wealth. Perhaps one of the most significant moments of acceptance and personal growth came when Elizabeth helped organize a design exhibition in the city center. The event was a showcase of the university's best student projects, and Elizabeth's work was one of the highlights. Visitors of all ages toured the exhibition, and Elizabeth found herself in the role of guide and educator, explaining design concepts and the importance of historical preservation. "You really believe in what you do, don't you?" asked an older visitor, observing a model of Elizabeth integrating Victorian elements with modern energy efficiency techniques. "I believe," replied Elizabeth, a glimmer of passion in her eyes. "I believe we can honor our past while building a sustainable future, and I think it's never too late to contribute to that vision." The woman smiled, her gaze reflecting a mixture of wonder and inspiration. "You make me want to follow my own unfulfilled dreams," she said, shaking Elizabeth's hand in gratitude. These moments of connection, both large and small, strengthened Elizabeth's resolve. She realized that her journey wasn't just about learning architecture. It was also about learning herself and positively impacting the people around her. Elizabeth had transformed from a purposeful retiree to a respected and inspiring leader within her new community. At the end of the semester, as Elizabeth walked around campus, now familiar and welcoming, she reflected on her journey. The university, which had once seemed an insurmountable challenge, was now a place of growth and acceptance. She knew there was still a lot to learn, but now she walked with the certainty that each new challenge was simply another opportunity to evolve and inspire. Elizabeth's graduation day had finally arrived. Newfield University's campus was adorned with banners and flowers, and the air vibrated with the excitement and pride of the graduates and their families. For Elizabeth, this day represented more than a simple rite of academic passage. It was the celebration of a journey of courage, discovery, and transformation. From an early age, the auditorium was filled with a crowd of smiling faces. Elizabeth, dressed in her gown and chapel, was among her colleagues, many of whom had become close friends and mentors. The feeling of camaraderie was palpable, and as they adjusted their garments and shared nervous laughter, Elizabeth felt a deep gratitude for each of them. When her name was called, Elizabeth walked to the stage with firm and confident steps. The applause and whistles of the spectators filled the air, especially loud coming from the section where his family and friends were sitting. Her daughter, Anna, stood up, applauding with tears in her eyes, proud of the example of determination and passion that her mother represented. Upon receiving her diploma, Elizabeth looked at the crowd, her expression reflecting the emotion of that moment. She knew that every challenge faced, every night of study, and every project completed had been necessary steps in her journey. She had proven, not only for herself, but for everyone around her, that it is never too late to follow new paths and realize dreams. After the ceremony, the campus was filled with groups of graduates and their families, taking pictures and celebrating. Elizabeth and her family gathered for lunch at a local restaurant, where she shared her experiences and plans for the future. During lunch, Elizabeth announced that she had decided not to stop there. Inspired by her love of history and architecture, she planned to start a small architecture firm focused on restoration projects of historic buildings in Newfield. "I want to give something back to the community that supported me so much," Elizabeth said, toasting with her family. The city of Newfield has so many hidden treasures that deserve to be preserved and celebrated. In the following weeks, Elizabeth worked to make this dream a reality. With the help of Tomas, who became not only a friend, but also a business partner, she opened the office of Martin and Souza Architects. The firm quickly gained attention for its mission of sustainability and preservation, attracting clients who valued the unique combination of respect for tradition and modern innovation. One of Elizabeth's early designs was the restoration of the old Newfield railway station, a building that had fallen into disuse and was at risk of demolition. With her careful and respectful approach, Elizabeth not only preserved the history of the building, but also transformed it into a vibrant community space that served as a local market and a meeting place for cultural events. The opening of the restored station was an event celebrated throughout the city. Elizabeth, seeing the building full of life and the community gathered, felt an immense satisfaction. She had done more than just build structures. She had helped build a community. When I look at everything we can do here, I see that the biggest buildings of our lives are not just made of brick and concrete, but of dreams, determination, and the will to make a difference. Elizabeth reflected in a speech during the inauguration. And I'm just getting started. Elizabeth Martin, in her early 60s, had found a new beginning, not only for herself, but for her entire community. His story was living proof that age is just a number and that new beginnings can be as promising as the dreams we dare to follow. If you like this exciting story, help us by leaving your like and subscribing to our channel. Until the next story,